There are more affordable rides than the Mazda CX-5, but for its reasonable price, I can't think of a single car that gets the upper hand. Value is a touchy subject these days. To some, in order to be a bargain, all a car needs to do is provide either great features or quality for the money. To others, it needs to be 25 grand out the door. And if not, it's surely a scam and we've all fallen victim. Now, I do understand it's frustrating when an affordable car these days is $30,000, but here for that price tag with the CX-5, you are getting a lot for your money. Even if you look at the past. For instance, if we look back 10 years to the 2014 Toyota RAV4 limited all-wheel drive without any added options, it costs virtually the same as this Mazda CX-5 that also has all-wheel drive, leatherette upholstery, a proximity entry, heated front seats, and so on. There are some feature set differences and discounts were more common back then, but the budget proposition here stands strong. There are other value-minded competitors like the Subaru Forester that do undercut the CX-5 in their base trim forms. However, this is going to have way more amenities. I mean, the more expensive CR-V and RAV4 don't even have alloy wheels like what you will find standard here, with some very chunky sidewalls, but that makes this even better for people that live near neglected back roads like I do. It really doesn't look like a base trim at all in my opinion, and for 2024, the base model and most other trims get color-keyed fender moldings. No more unpainted cladding. My only knock is that Mazda did get rid of the grade that sat below the Select trim, as that was a great option for people who actually just wanted the basics. Briefly, I'd like to thank the kind folks over at Royal South Mazda in Bloomington, Indiana, the friendly dealership that's let me test drive multiple CX-5s over the years to make this video possible. If you're in the market, check them out. Personally, I'm a fan of the style of the CX-5. It's the tad upscale, which fits with the current theme of Mazda. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. While there are more fresh or interesting cabins available for this price point and in this class, the CX-5 stands out in one major area, and that is quality. On the premium trim and above, you'll find improved materials. Here in the Select, there's a ton of plastic, but just like Gordon Ramsay using produce from Aldi, Mazda's attention to detail keeps this interior tasteful. Even here at the base, we're gonna find some soft touch on the dashboard and on the door panel, but it's not just that, it's how the door feels when you shut it. All the dials and buttons have a satisfying click to them. Most things are covered in a matte finish, so it should be easy to clean, and the construction of everything feels a step above most of its competitors. Even these like brushed aluminum accents that are probably plastic feel nice. The panel fitment is also better here than like what you'll find in a CX-30. We're gonna have a 10.3-inch infotainment screen. This widescreen has a respectable resolution. It's caked with an oversimplified user interface, and it's primarily controlled through buttons and dials located where your hand naturally rests. At the base level, this does have wired Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which will allow you to use it as a touchscreen when you're at a stoplight or stationary. Touch can also be used while driving, but only if you enable it to do so, something that is oddly buried in the settings, like a contract condition that gives TikTok permission to tell your loved ones about what happened to your pants in middle school. Response time is good. Some may find this annoying, but honestly, when I'm moving, using this dial is really easy, even when some things do take a couple extra steps. It's going to be paired up with a 6-speaker audio system that actually provides an adequate sound experience for a bass level. There's fairly strong bass, good clarity there at medium to high volumes. When it comes to other features, I'm pretty satisfied too. We have an analog gauge cluster here with the little multifunction display, and we have easy to use dials to control our standard dual zone automatic climate control. The leatherette upholstery looks and feels good. Plus, we have manual lumbar adjustment here for the driver, allowing my back to be comfortable for hours on end, though the seat bottoms are still awkward. Basically no bolstering, and support is limited, so if you're tall, it's just not a great driving position. Plus, they don't pad where your knees rest here at the base level, so there is room for improvement, and it's not a deal breaker for me, but that could be for some folks. The storage is okay. I mean, we do at least have some large door pockets. Hopping into the back seat behind myself, my knees are going to be wrapping around the seat, even if my front seat alter ego is trying to be sympathetic. At least the cushioning is soft back there, and you do have rear console vents as standard, with rear USB ports that are strangely enough located in the center armrest. The rear seats also recline a smidge, and the rear doors open up quite wide. Moving into the trunk, when the seats are up, it's competitive with most in the segment. When you move the seats down, it's just not as cavernous overall, but it's nice to see things like a 40-20-40 split rear row, seat releases mounted in the cargo area, a compact spare tire, and a flat floor with all seats folded. Despite this generation being in its 8th model year, the Mazda CX-5 remains as the best handling, most natural SUV in its segment. It's like LeBron James' NBA career. He started before some of his peers were born, and he still earns his crown. Under the hood, we're gonna have a 2.5-liter naturally aspirated inline-4 on the Select trim. This is gonna make 187 horsepower and 185 pound-feet of torque. If you want a more effortless experience, Mazda does offer the turbocharged variant of this engine, but that's gonna cost you like $38,000 to start. So I really wanna fixate on this power plant. All CX-5s are gonna come hooked up to a 6-speed traditional torque converter automatic. Now this is not afraid to downshift. Unfortunately, with its relatively low amount of gear ratios, cars like the RAV4 may have an advantage. It's also a bit slow to shift, especially from first to second gear when you're getting on it, but I found it to be very smooth in most scenarios. Gas mileage is okay for a small SUV these days, though the ratings for the base engine will drop soon due to supply shortages for cylinder deactivation and auto stop-start components. On the flip side, if you wanted to avoid that tech, just wait a little bit. This also comes standard with Mazda's iActive all-wheel drive. It's a system that will primarily be front-wheel drive, though it can preemptively send power to the rear wheels, and it's pretty good at doing that too. I've seen it pull off some pretty impressive feats, especially with the off-road traction mode, which is more so an unstuck button that tells the traction control system to use the brakes to stop spinning wheels and redirect torque to the other side, instead of simply cutting power after slippage. The off-road mode of the premium trim onward is meant for general trail use. The ground clearance is just okay. Your overhangs aren't too bad, but this was really more so designed to handle snow and inclement weather. Passing power is adequate so long as your expectations are also realistic. In the past, I've gotten this to 60 in 8.6 seconds, on par with the class average. Pulling up to highway speed, 65 miles per hour, it does rev a little high, around 2,200 RPM, but road and wind noise are well muffled. Yeah, on the highway, you're not gonna have actual lane centering. In fact, that feature is only available on the top spec, and it works up to speeds of just 40 miles per hour. But with steering this accurate, that's really not that big of a deal, especially to the type of person that Mazda is going after. So whether you're on a windy back road, highway on and off ramps, or parking lots, the Mazda CX-5 handles exactly the way that I'd want a small SUV to. The suspension, which sits on the firm side for the segment, holds the road really well. It's sure-footed with minimal body roll. The steering is also precise with good feedback from the road. The ratio isn't overly quick, which keeps it from feeling darty, but because there's virtually no play on center, this thing feels second nature, and I like that the steering weight here is lighter than most Mazda products. It makes this feel more playful and just easier to drive. Yeah, I don't have paddle shifters here, but you got a little sport mode in the transmission that keeps the engine closer to its ideal power band. So if I lived on a really mountainous, windy road, I think this would be a great partner. Now on a bad road, the Mazda CX-5 is a tolerable SUV. It communicates the road to you, so you're going to feel the small to medium-sized imperfections more so than in the class average. And unfortunately, if you live around really bad roads like what I'm driving on right now, it'll be a little bit more of a nuisance. When you hit larger potholes, it will send a small shock into the cabin. Nothing too abusive, and with the 17-inch wheels that I'm riding on here, I'm not scared of damaging any rims. But if you're looking for the most comfortable SUV with the lowest price tag, I'd probably point you toward a Subaru Forester. The ride is not jittery at the very least. It does have independent rear suspension, unlike some other Mazda SUVs. But I think even their own CX-50 is a little bit softer. Visibility is good. I have a great view out of the front. My belt line is fairly low, and the car just feels, well, compact. And when you pair that with this steering that feels very connected to the road, I really trust the CX-5. It's an easygoing car. Mazda as a brand doesn't care all that much about active driving aids, but they do care about safety. So you're going to have autonomous braking and lane departure prevention as standard, but you also get blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert. It performs well in worst case scenarios too, even passing the new side crash test without needing a design change. The updated offset crash did challenge the chassis, but I'd still call this among the safest in the segment according to the tests. It should also be among the longest lasting. It's been out for a while, the powertrains are proven, and it's even built in Japan. Most owners have a great experience, though no car is perfect. Initially, we had transmission bugs and a fuel pump recall. In more rare cases, there was also a cylinder head issue that affected particular 2018 and 2019 models. In 2021, a bad batch of valve seals on turbocharged engines caused excessive oil consumption, and since then, some owners have reported a transmission chirp that requires a new transmission. Bugs with the autonomous braking system, easily chipping paint, and infotainment complaints are the more common issues. It's also direct injection, so I'd advise a fuel induction service every 25,000 miles or so to keep the intake valves clean. Overall, if longevity is a high priority for you, I'd feel comfortable advising a Mazda CX-5. While there are cars I'm more impressed by in the segment than the CX-5, they also cost more. So if I was putting myself on a more strict budget, or I was more financially responsible, the CX-5 Select would be my personal choice. There are some other vehicles that offer great amenities for the price tag, but this one stands out because of the quality and the driving experience. This reminds me more of a 90s Japanese car than any other SUV on the market. Mazda's straightforward approach to a modern crossover has helped this age well. And while this does come with some limitations, if value is at the forefront of your mind, the base model's CX-5 is one hell of an option. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like to help me sneak my way through the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe and hit the notification bell for more fun, detailed car content without fluff. Check out my Patreon for an additional podcast, and I'll catch you in the next one.